Do do do. The film you like is coming back into style. Sometimes my films bend backwards. I'll see you in 30 years. That just means more shit I gotta do. It's the Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me watch along.
Woohoo! Welcome, one and all. Here we are. It's time for another watch along from the Everything Sequel podcast.
That's right.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Are you going to reveal to me what you just revealed
to you?
To me off mic? That frankly blows my tiny little mind.
Yes, I don't think I've seen this movie.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's
saying something.
That's surprising for a number of reasons.
Yeah. I think
because you've seen the rest of Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah.
Because we've had conversations about it.
But I think what it is that I had not started the series by the time the movie had come out. Like, I came to the series later.
Right. Well, it is a prequel.
Fuck's sake.
So technically, that shouldn't have been an obstacle. But of course, it's also a David Lynch.
I wouldn't know, Tom. I wouldn't know.
But it's also a David Lynch movie, so it would have ruined the entire series for you.
Okay.
Because David Lynch doesn't understand the style.
A shit.
He doesn't understand the style of filmmaking he's entering into in this particular outing.
Now, I want to say that this movie was 1992, though, right?
Yep. So it's the 30-year anniversary.
All right. So I got that right.
To the day, if you're watching this on
yes, right.
When we put this out, it'll be 30 years to the day, which is the French release date. Why is that important? Well, for a few reasons. The first being that this movie premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. And then, national release in France a few days later. It was reportedly booed at the premiere.
I thought I remembered something like that for this movie.
However, don't get too comfortable with the idea, because it's probably not true. Because it has been disputed by more than one person who was actually there at the time. And I would say, just in general, if you ever hear that about a film at Cannes, it's probably not true. It's more often not true than it is true. Just as I don't think Crimes of the Future got an 8-minute standing ovation. I don't think that happened. I think they're taking advantage of the fact that only press are in that room. And no one can no one can challenge what they're writing.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a French film, essentially. It was made by French film company, CIBY, yeah. And
I went for my best Dale Cooper.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twin Peaks, in fact, the pilot of the TV series Twin Peaks was re-edited and released in France as a movie, as a David Lynch.
Say that
movie.
Again.
The pilot for Twin Peaks, which was feature length, was re-edited by David Lynch, and of course, it was directed by David Lynch and released as a movie in theaters in France. Yes.
Wow.
So those are the connections between Twin Peaks and France, which is why we're doing this.
Like Jerry Lewis.
Yes, pretty much. Or
amazing.
Or body odor. And I can talk. It's in the middle of summer in a closet. I'm already sort of I will smell bad after I
was just saying.
But this is, it's the first time we've done a David Lynch movie, but
well, you might love or hate David Lynch, but like, his movies normally wouldn't fit anything we're gonna do.
except this one, which is actually perfect for our purposes. You know, on the watch along, we do films that are difficult to categorize as sequels. This is a film prequel to a television series, which has its own prequel in the film itself, and a television series sequel that follows it. So,
did you get that, everyone?
And I haven't even mentioned the fact that, you know, Twin Peaks, the original series that this is following, ends on a cliffhanger as well.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I realized watching the movie in preparation for this that there's actually a prequel to the prequel to the prequel within this film. If you want to, if you actually want to, I know this is, yeah. So, that's what we're dealing with here. The other criteria we haven't mentioned is that we pick movies that have been deemed difficult to watch in the past, which is not to say that that's necessarily true or not. And you know, there's a historically mixed response to this movie. Upon its release, it was panned by critics and the Twin Peaks fan base, who felt
who adore the show.
Who adored the show and felt it was too different from the show. But over the years, you know,
you told me we were going to do this, you know, do this as our next watch along. And I remember looking the movie up, and it has like, I think it was 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is that revisionist history or?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, since the kind of, I would say since the early 2000s, the critical community has sort of started to warm up to the movie. It's been called a masterpiece once or twice in the last 20 years. But it was also kind of redeemed by a couple of new texts that changed people's opinion of it. The first of these being a movie called The Missing Pieces, which is a 90-minute movie made out of all the unused footage for this movie, that became available on the Twin Peaks Ultimate box sets. You can only get it on, you can't find it anywhere streaming. It's only on the
box set,
on the and only the Twin Peaks Ultimate Everything box set.
Put together by Lynch?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's an extra 90-minute movie that you can watch that can sort of help you understand like what they were going for with this movie. And of course, in 2017, we get the television follow-up to both this and the original Twin Peaks series, Twin Peaks: The Return, which actively builds on characters' storylines that are introduced in Fire Walk, that are specific to Fire Walk with Me. So they kind of, both this film and that series kind of grew together symbiotically.
Maybe that's why I felt lost during that series.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I think this is the first time I've seen it since watching Twin Peaks: The Return. And I was kind of struck by how much, how necessary Fire Walk with Me was to, it's not, understanding is not, you know, it's off the table, right? No, understanding is off the table. Like, but definitely it's like appreciating, and you know, we'll talk through it as we go along, but there are actual moments in Fire Walk with Me that leave narrative questions hanging that are legitimately followed up in their own bizarre and unsatisfactory way in Twin Peaks: The Return.
The Return,
yeah. So it's, you know, it's mixed, but you know, it is revisionist history that has saved this film from the doldrums. There's a nasty quote from Quentin Tarantino about how, you know, upon seeing this, he said David Lynch is done. That's it. He's you know, his career is over.
Well, he's wrong about that.
Well, I mean, yes, he had yet to make most of his masterpieces at that point as well. Right. And you know, it's interesting. It's like, how do you look at this film? Do you look at it through the prism of the David Lynch canon, or do you try and evaluate it as a movie that intersects with a lot of different sequel formats that we're kind of familiar with? And I mean, it is definitely more of a
You want to preface that? Like, what are we
yeah, well, I
about?
mean, it's definitely more of a Lynch product than Twin Peaks, the original TV series,
because he was kind of handcuffed by
I mean, not well, I mean, obviously, yeah, there's the kind of network television, and you'll see that, not having those kind of strictures certainly changes how, changes the expression artistically. But he co-created the series with Mark Frost, who is not part of this, is conspicuous by his absence here. He's an executive producer, but he had no creative involvement in this film. And of course, Lynch only directed a handful of episodes out of the 30-odd episodes of Twin Peaks, so it's not wholly his baby in the same way that this movie is. And of course, this is cinema, which is David Lynch's territory more so than television. But also, I think a lot of the non-linear storytelling you're going to see in the movie is very commonly found in David Lynch movies.
Right. Okay.
Also, there's a little bit of recasting from the original Twin Peaks.
Okay.
You can also see in that, the slippage of the fluidity of identity. People regularly swap bodies in David Lynch movies.
Yeah. Right.
And it's interesting how that,
see Mulholland Drive.
Right. So you get exactly. So, but you get some like kind of literal recasting where, one actor is replaced by, who's in the TV series, is replaced by another in the film. But you sort of think like, well, David Lynch might have done that anyway, even if the actor wasn't available. Right. It's that kind of feeling. And, the story of this movie being cut down from, a movie nearly twice the length reminds me of June.
Yeah, what you said when you said that there was an extra 90 minutes, I thought, well, that makes it a 4-hour movie.
Right. And also similar to the story of Dune, and how that was, that there's a cut that's almost twice the length that never got released. But I think I would say the key thing here is like David Lynch movies are about confounding and subverting audience expectation.
Yeah.
And that's what he did here. That there was a very obvious follow-up feature film spin-off that you could have made to Twin Peaks, but this isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so not it.
He decided to David Lynch it.
Yeah, but that's what he does. And
you have to kind of expect it.
Right. And the Twin Peaks fan base is obviously just thinking about what they want in terms of the series, forgetting that David Lynch is in charge of it all, and he's not going to do what they think he's going to do.
Right, of course.
But it's striking to me that this is a prequel. That's very important. Okay. It's got all the problems of a prequel. Full of retcons, no new information, dramatic irony left and center.
Well, and I'm starting to wonder, because it's been a hot minute since it's probably been a decade since I sat down and thought, I'm going to rewatch Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Well, technically this would be the place to start, but because prequels don't work, you can't do that. You would learn if you were going through chronologically, you would have where you if you're going to
start.
This is where you're supposed to start, but you would ruin the rest of the series.
I can't wait to find out how. What, like, you're saying like you there's something in this movie that say completely fucks up the last episode of the series?
You'd know who kills Laura Palmer, and a good 2/3 of Twin Peaks is based around the mystery of who kills Laura Palmer.
That's amazing.
So yeah, but it's also it's a feature film spin-off of a TV series, right? Which is something very specific. There's a lot of Star Trek Generations type moments in this film.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of feeling I get. And even though it was released theatrically, it does kind of feel like a TV movie. Like it does feel like David Lynch's attempt at a Lifetime movie almost. especially the sort of the part of the movie that's the last 7 days of Laura Palmer, has some real kind of lifetime quality to it. Kind of lifetime movie of the week. But it's a think of all those movies, those TV movies where it's like a reunion special. I mean, the ones with dramatic content, not the ones where actors sit around in chairs with a semi-paralyzed with a semi-paralyzed Matthew Perry and talk about like what they did. I mean, like Dallas and Cagney and Lacey, the Rockford Files. It has that,
or even
feel
Law
as
and
well.
Order, where they have a spin-off movie,
right? It's but of course it's not a reunion because it's the probably less than a year after the show went off the air. So
right.
the actors are exactly the same. And
before you go on, I'll just say for those listening at home, we're going to be watching this on HBO MAX.
That's right.
So countdown in 4 or 5 minutes. Get ready. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. It's also interesting to note that that there were 2 sequels planned as a follow-up to this movie, that because of the response, the failure of the movie were canned. And I wonder how much of that made it into Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because so much, but I mean, it's interesting because if they were going to make them, in like, let's say, for argument's sake, 94, 96, you wouldn't be able to do a lot of what you did in Twin Peaks: The Return, which is about that sort of 25-year gap, which is also prophesized in the series itself when she says, I'll see you, she says to Dale, I'll see you in 25 years. And so it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I mean, that just might be marketing, that might not be necessarily true. But the idea was to make a trilogy, like a Twin Peaks film trilogy. But this is the only.
But this was like a huge bomb, as I recall.
Yeah,
I can't remember the budget, but I don't think it even made 10 or even $5 million. I think it was under that.
Right. But this is the only cinematic Twin Peaks that's out there unless you count the missing pieces, which has never been available except on DVD. So it's an interesting objet d'art, I will say. And I think you have to take everything I've been talking about into consideration when you watch this. But I've seen people carry on.
Well, I was just going to ask you, before we get started, is there anything we should tell the good people watching and listening at home in preparation? Anything else they need to know? Or have we landed on it?
I mean, don't expect easy answers to, like, if you've never seen this, if you've never seen this before, and you're expecting. I mean, I think largely, because Twin Peaks ended on a cliffhanger, the expectation was that a feature film spin-off might have resolved that cliffhanger.
Instead, they go back in time.
Instead, they go back in time and sort of just complicate what you've already seen to the point where you don't even know if the ending really was a cliffhanger or, if reality exists. But it's, I mean, it's just, you started off saying, people either love or hate David Lynch. I think it's possible that, like, this film, you get both ends of that.
Right.
There are real standout moments, but there were also moments where you think, like, why do we need to see what we're seeing?
Yeah, right.
Like,
well, in that way, because I think, I know few people that would say David Lynch is just a terrible filmmaker.
Right.
But I think a fair criticism would be that he can be a frustrating filmmaker.
Well, that's it. I mean, this film is largely, if you know the Twin Peaks, if you know the characters and the story of Twin Peaks, this is sort of one of the most frustrating experiences you'll ever have. But I mean, Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm interested to hear. I'm interested to hear what you think, and obviously, like other people's reaction. It is. But
I'll say only this: don't expect an intuitiveness on the level of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
right. There you go. Yeah, no, I mean it is, and as you said, David Lynch isn't really making. Twin Peaks is the only time he's kind of sequelized his own work.
Yeah,
both in film and television. So and I read something that said he didn't want to give up the world of Twin Peaks that he created, and that's why this movie was made. Of course, when you actually watch the movie, you realize that it's nothing like the world of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins in a way that is pretty much exactly the opposite of what we've come to expect in Twin Peaks. And it slowly finds its way back to what we're familiar with from the series as the movie goes on, but it takes a long time to get there. And that was what, and then he did the same thing with Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, that was my overwhelming. I remember thinking that with The Return, I just remember thinking that exact thing.
Yeah,
like if you were expecting the feel of Twin Peaks, sorry.
Yeah. And the gratification of seeing your favorite characters. Although that's interesting. Yeah, right. That's interesting too, because he sort of delivers on that front, but again, it's in the last way you were expecting.
All right. Well,
this is a really cameo heavy film.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, there's some notable absences, but they try their hardest to cram in as many characters, that legacy characters, as they can. Mm-hmm. And missing pieces is reportedly just that.
Okay.
It is just scenes of people from the series.
From the show, yeah.
Yeah, they each filmed a scene. Everyone from the show filmed a scene, basically, is what happened. But only half of it made it into the final cut.
All right. Well, are you ready?
Yeah, I think let's go. It's on the longer side, so we don't want to dilly-dally.
Yeah, by all means. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Everything Sequel podcast does present Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me as our watch along. Are you ready, Tom?
I'm ready.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Ooh, Criterion.
Yeah. So it's obviously a good movie, regardless of what anyone says about it, because it starts
no
with
matter what somebody
starts
says.
with the C.
Oh, good old Janus films.
You don't see that too much anymore. I don't think they.
No.
It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't think he exists anymore.
Now let's focus on what we're watching.
Well, we start with TV Snow, which is a pretty strong indicator of the heritage of television in this project.
Yeah. You will not see Michael Keaton in white noise in this movie.
Your first indication that something might be off here is that we've got actors and characters who are dead in the timeline of the show.
Oh, Dana Ashbrook. Dana Ashbrook's father taught me at community college.
Whoa. Yeah. He's in this a lot. He's one of the leads of this movie.
Yeah, he stopped by the class once.
Did he offer anyone cocaine? Slam his hand on the locker?
No. I mean, I don't want to speak too ill because he's gone now, but the other professors used to talk about Buddy because he Well, Buddy liked a good drink. And every once in a while he'd showed up with like a new scrape or bruise on his face or arms or hands. And he'd say, "Oh, that's spa. I tripped on the spa again." And so they started calling the spa his attack spa.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So you can see we've got some actors from the TV series, some more film-friendly names like Harry Dean Stanton, Kiefer Sutherland, and a couple of rock musicians.
Right. I it's funny because I'm sitting there, I go, Kiefer, in my head, I was like, Kiefer Sutherland, Moira Kelly, what, Harry Dean, what's going on here?
Yeah. Also, I think if you're a fan, you'd already be disappointed that it appears Carl McLaughlin's not going to be in this movie much because he's like bottom of the billing.
Right. So my costume is completely inappropriate. Well, what are you upset about? It wasn't working anyway.
That's like a metaphor for the TV, for like the series ending and the film beginning. We just blow up a TV set. That's a great opening gag.
I could tell, though. I could tell. I forgot how funny he was as that character.
He's sort of really the only comedy in this movie.
Is that right?
Him and Harry Dean, yeah.
Okay.
This scene of the FBI taking down a school bus at gunpoint has not aged well.
I was gonna say, what's going on with the school bus?
It's a sure sign that you get the same kind of offbeat comedy from the series, but with a much darker tinge.
Yeah,
and I think people found that really hard to accept. It's not that the movie is not funny, but the humor is much darker. And here we have the opening of Northern Exposure. It already feels more cinematic. There's like a plane. There's a shot from a plane. Aaron Spelling wasn't paying for this.
No. The glad hand. The plane or the lady?
Both. It's the glamour mime clown. I guarantee you David Lynch is on set saying, the French are gonna love this.
Yeah, right?
This is how you open a movie in France.
I like it when characters ask questions the audience are asking as well. Is that what's his name?
Chris Isaac.
Chris Isaac?
I like how all of David Lynch's weirdness can be decoded in factual terms. It's kind of comforting.
Yeah.
Makes me think I'm missing a lot when I watch his movies. How much of this do you think plays into anything we're about to see?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was gonna say. I also wanted him to ask. Let me ask you something, Stanley. How the hell did you catch anybody? You see what level I'm working on?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, Stanley's the only one of the two of them notices something relevant, which is the blue rose.
There you go.
But that's we already know that. Yeah, there's no new information, by the way. We already knew about Teresa Banks. This is like the anti-Twin Peaks. This is like the Shelbyville of Twin Peaks.
Oh, you rotten Twin Peaks! Shake your fist harder, boy.
They regularly just bite into lemons.
Yeah. What the voice?
It's this total unglamorized version of small town life.
I was gonna say, do small town sheriffs usually laugh at the FBI?
People break out into fits of laughter in this movie like no other movie I've ever seen. Except possibly Satyricon. The
She's a big fan of rudeness.
See that this is how you know Dear Meadow is like the dark doppelganger of Twin Peaks. Not even the coffee's good.
Yeah. That's what you get.
Yeah. Coffee is important in this franchise.
Yes, very.
Sheriff Cable.
How the hell did you get in here?
This also feels like an episode of True Detective.
Mm-hmm. Sheriff, this guy means business. Actor's choice. Ram into the door.
I think that this obviously, like, this section has nothing to do with
anything,
but I don't know. It always to me felt truer to the series.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as affectionate towards these kind of small town characters.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different take. But I think that's kind of the point. It's like contrast.
I like that he had everything ready for him in a box, but we went through a lot of shit to get there.
Yeah. That's great. Cable Ben Steele. It's like what Andy Griffith would be like in real life.
Yeah, right.
So
I was gonna ask, how long are we gonna stay with these two?
I love it. I think it's great. I actually really like this double act as well. I think they're great.
Yeah.
It only occurred to me in the last viewing that dead girl.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematic fetishization of dead female bodies. They're like the two sides of David Lynch. There's like the idealized version of what he thinks he is, and then and Kiefer Sutherland represents what he actually comes out as
yes.
in physical reality. Feels very I think of Twin Peaks as kind of feeling quite timeless. This feels like an early 90s movie. This kind of autopsy,
yeah, you're right.
Serial killer, Silence of the Lambs kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm. But you're right that there's also
Chris Isaac's in Silence of the Lambs as well.
He is. You're right. Yeah. But I was also going to say you're right that there's something within this too that does feel kind of, Hallmark
yeah.
or Lifetime. Carpenter's like that sometimes, where you're looking at the actors working on his sets.
Yeah.
Like They Live looks like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been wondering what that green box he's been carrying around was for.
It's to give us some old information chronologically for the first time. This also has a lot of, I would say, Rogue One in it. Because it's like,
ooh. Oh.
Yeah, that just comes right off after you die. And there's a letter in it. We know. We've seen Twin Peaks. We've seen it. Yeah, we know.
Can you see the T? I see the T.
I probably just could have held it really close to my eye.
Yeah, right. Instead of having you lug this thing across the country.
This giant pencil sharpener.
Oh, they did a lot of work. It's 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, here we are.
Haps
that this ain't no R&R. Especially when that's your fucking greeter.
Right?
Fucking weirdest maitre d' ever.
You have to assume Jack murdered somebody and then put that badge on, that little name tag.
It looks like the R&R, but the coffee shit. I never noticed Kiefer Sutherland puts his spectacles on to look at his coffee.
That's a good one.
He's so good in this. I'm surprised Lynch
his
hasn't
coffee
used him
wasn't
again.
even in the cup yet. He was inspecting the cup.
Yeah, he's right to as well. Look at.
Yeah, look at her.
Problem with Chris Isaac is he sounds like the next words out of his mouth are going to be Blue Hotel. Yeah. Mind you, that wouldn't be too out of place if he just started singing.
I've done a bad thing.
prior movie that Lynch made was Wild at Heart. People broke out into song all the fucking time in that.
Right. There's not a lot of roles where you think of Kiefer Sutherland and think, comedy, but he's funny right here.
I know. He's sort of never really. I'm really surprised that.
Yeah.
He works really well with art cinema directors because he's also been in Lars von Trier movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a wax museum.
Who is
in real
this
life.
couple? It's like Audrey Hepburn is dating, the county's best bass fisherman.
Chet Desmond's such a shit. Like Laura Palmer's did. Yeah. Even the new information is old.
Is old information.
Speaking of old information. It's like someone sort of was trying to do like a rip-off of an Edward Hopper painting.
Mm-hmm.
But just like put the two people that didn't belong in the same painting. That's what this scene feels like. That coffee, I know you're not a coffee drinker, but that coffee is fucking horrible, and I know it, and David Lynch must know it because he's a coffee connoisseur.
Oh, what was the question?
Specials.
Oh,
they don't have any specials. Far from the glorification of diners we see in the scene. This may be the best bit, the moment of the film about to happen. Harry Dean. He was a treasure.
Yeah,
he's a huge loss. I think the last role he did was this same character in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Carl. Carl Rod is the name of the character, and he's still managing the fat trout as well in Twin Peaks: The Return. This is what I mean. It's like they pick up and run with this character who's only in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, right.
This Carrie Dean Stanton in this movie is just a masterclass of like giving people all the emotional responses.
Yeah, right.
With a limited amount of screen time. This is the There's something David Lynch does so well. There's like people repeating the same line within earshot of someone they've just said it to. Oh, and here's another David Lynch classic. An one-eyed hag appears around the corner. It's warming up to Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly the scariest moment I've ever had in a movie theater.
That moment when they come around the trash bin or whatever.
Yeah, with the bag lady just appears out of nowhere. Because it's gone on so long that it's convinced you that nothing's going to happen, and then suddenly a giant, dirty hag face just appears out of nowhere. I do remember being in the theater and people just kind of going, "Oh!" like that at that moment, like that, like their soul was leaving their body.
Was Harry Dean wearing that bandage the whole time?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This is what I mean. He's just making the
6 or 9.
Making the most of your screen time. It's just beautiful. It's such a beautiful acting moment in the middle of
so good.
All this. Oh
wow.
So that's like like a minute, 2 minutes worth of screen time, and he made me laugh, cry, and scared of him, all in the same. There's not many actors that can do that, and Lynch really knows how to use him. Do you remember him in Inland Empire?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
That guy is like asking for people for money.
Yeah, right.
On set, and it does the same thing where he I think he gets some money out of Jeremy Irons, like he bums a few dollars of him, and then he turns to the guy next to him and gives exactly the same sub story with him still in earshot. That and David Lynch shouting random phrases at Jeremy Irons is the best part of that movie.
You already got your ass kicked once, son.
They don't give a fuck in Deer Meadow.
Yeah.
He's all pumped up from that steel bending contest he won. Fucking invincible now.
Just one?
I promise you, this will have something to do with something to do with Twin Peaks at some point.
Okay.
No, I'm saying that's what that scene's all about. See, this is something I really love. Like when I saw Harry Dean Stanton's scenes in Twin Peaks: The Return, I was like, that's not the same. I was like, oh, that's not the same character. I remember that character being like really gruff and unpleasant. And like the end of that scene, he takes his tenant's arm as he walks off.
Right, exactly.
And it's like there's this sweetness beneath the gruff exterior. And then they built on that for Twin Peaks: The Return. It's like these two texts get more interesting the more you watch them together. It's really fascinating.
And I'll tell you one thing I really do like about David Lynch. You know, I think we've talked about this before. Like when you watch All the President's Men, and you realize how good a movie can be when your camera's just on stilts.
Yeah.
You know, I like that he's willing to, just let you sit with it.
And when he does camera movement, it's actually very deliberate and very precise. There's a couple of really good examples of it in this movie. It's not a camera never moves more than it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. 30 minutes into the movie. Here's the star of the series.
And 30 seconds.
It's again, bread and butter. Dale Cooper talking about having a dream.
Mm-hmm.
CCTV were definitely in the early 90s.
It's got a Halloween 2 vibe.
Yeah. Dale's trying to, like, when you try and catch an image of yourself in the in like the TVs in a store window.
Yeah.
That's literally what he's doing here. Who do you think is going to come out this elevator?
Oh, God. Is it well, that was my last guess.
David Bowie, yeah. David Bowie it's kind of funny because, you know, you've got Gordon Cole, you've got Dale Cooper, you're like, okay, right, the movie's starting now. Here we go. You're like, David Bowie? What's going on? No, it's David Bowie. His name's not Philip.
Well, and look who's to our right.
Yeah, Miguel Ferrer as Albert.
Miguel.
By the way, him saying we're not going to talk about Judy, there's a whole episode of Twin Peaks: The Return about that. We actually find out what he's talking about.
Well, at the time, I'm sure I was just counting it as the many, many times I was confused.
Garmin Bozier. So this, I think, is the Black Lodge, kind of.
Kind of, right?
There's Bob. We know Bob. We know the dwarf. We know the grandma and the boy magician.
Mm-hmm.
Who looks like a shrunk David Lynch again. And we're going to meet another character, Jürgen Bruckner. Jürgen Bruckner sitting in the corner, slapping his thighs. That's Jürgen Bruckner's role in the movie, right there.
All right, then.
The curtains. So Twin Peaks: The Return obviously took, like, Philip Jeffries, that character returns, but Bowie's dead by that point. Mm-hmm. So they recast. Do you remember what they recast him as?
No.
The next time we see Philip Jeffries, he's a kettle.
He's a what?
He's a steam kettle. That's a really good question, Dale.
That's what we're all wondering.
He went to Judy.
Am I crazy? Like, I don't remember David Bowie in the original series.
No, he's not. This is the first time we ever see him. Whew. And the next time we see him, he's a steam kettle. With a different voice. Movie? No, in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Okay.
Philip Jeffries comes back, but Bowie died in 2016. Yeah. So Lynch is like, what if he turned into a kettle in the meantime?
There you go.
They also.
So now, I'm sorry, because we were talking. Did they get a call, and Oscar Isaac is missing? Is Kiefer Sutherland missing?
Chris Isaac is missing.
I mean, Chris Isaac.
Don't worry, the whereabouts of Oscar Isaac are still known. Yeah, he disappeared by the trailer. I really appreciate that you're still trying to follow this movie, even though this is a film that clearly does not want you to do that.
Right. You know, it's funny because, like we said, we don't see Kyle for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I probably won't see him for another 30 minutes, to be perfectly honest.
We're in a town like, but not Twin Peaks.
Right. And we do, I mean, Teresa Banks is a part of Twin Peaks.
Uh-huh.
He arrives saying that, this is a case that we're investigating a serial killer.
Yeah.
We think it's the same guy who killed Teresa Banks. So.
But it's like, even though it's clearly taking place in the past, and like many David Lynch movies, you might not know what is going on. It's not unsatisfying.
No.
It's still very interesting to watch.
I think so. Yeah, you got a 30-minute prequel to your prequel.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's crank out a classic. Speaking of Diane on the dictaphone. Effectively the credit sequence to Twin Peaks. Yeah,
that was the cold open, because it was long.
It must also be frustrating. It's like, oh great, we're in Twin Peaks and Laura Palmer's still alive. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. And then you see Laura Palmer walking down the street.
And I think a big
but
part
again,
of
I am not unsatisfied. Like,
yeah,
that music starts and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Well, here's the major piece of recasting, which is Lara Flynn Boyle has become Moira Kelly.
Oh,
as Donna.
Okay.
Interestingly, Moira Kelly was written out of The West Wing after one season as well.
Yeah.
She can't catch a break. Mike and Bobby, there's your
there you go. There's Dana.
There's your teacher's son. 5 legacy characters, 4 legacy actors.
There you go. Yeah, right. Pinky swear.
Going off to do some coke in the bathroom. This is the other thing. I mean, we only heard about Laura doing all this stuff in Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And yet in this movie, we see it all in a very visceral way. And I don't, like, on a scene by scene basis, I don't know how I feel about all that. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of it that I would rather imagine than see.
Yeah. That's what you got to do in the series,
right? But I think part of what made the series great was you only got to know Laura through the survivors,
Mm-hmm.
and she was different to everyone. And in this movie, Cheryl Lee has to play all that, and it's tough.
Yeah,
she has to essentially be like a human Barbie doll. Like every time she's with
right.
someone different, she's different. And I think Lynch thought he fucked over Cheryl Lee a little bit by having her play a corpse and a cousin.
Yeah.
It's like a turkey in the corn.
Gobble, gobble.
How many times have I said that?
One of the many livestock references you'll hear in this film. We got chickens, we got horses, we got turkeys. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Say it again.
There's your soap opera melodrama cranked to 11. I always find it interesting with David Lynch and melodrama, like he cranks it up to just below the point at which you can stop accepting it. It's really interesting. Like you never think it's not genuine.
Yeah, right.
But it is really extreme. Is this what he did when he came to your school? Just harassed your homecoming queen?
Let's not forget he becomes the sheriff.
That's the really interesting thing. Like every moment of this movie, I think about what becomes of all these characters.
Yeah, right.
Like I can never separate it in my mind. It's like later in the movie when you see Leo, it's like I can't not look at him without thinking of him being the final shot of him with like a tarantula on his face or something. Like he's this is Angelo Badalamenti rapping. You know, the composer, this is him rapping.
I'll take your word for it.
That spoken word track was
it's awesome.
David Lynch says it was the funniest thing he ever saw was Angelo Badalamenti in a sound booth rapping. This scene wouldn't pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah, right.
Just talking about two boys.
We can do better than this, can we?
And of course, you can't stop thinking about the fact that then James and Donna get together. He loved me too when I was played by Lara Flynn Boyle.
Yeah, right.
But don't you think that that's kind of like a Lost Highway thing where, you know, halfway through Bill Pullman just becomes another person?
Just becomes, yeah, exactly. That's been circling my brain.
Balthazar right Getty, just like out of nowhere. Oh, that's right. She's with Mike. I totally forgot that at the beginning of Twin Peaks. She's with. He starts off with Mike. No, Mike can't write a poem. What did he end up doing? Wasn't he like a real estate agent or something, or an accountant?
Oh, I don't remember.
In The Return, he was. I remember seeing Mike and thinking that is exactly where he's supposed to be.
Really?
Like,
yeah.
Like Bobby was the opposite.
Is he the guy, like the guy that was taking over the town with the
real
estate?
Yes. It's like a Tremors, like a sort of
right.
Tremors 3 kind of subplot going on. It's incredible what Cheryl Lee has to do emotionally in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to switch from one emotion to another so rapidly, so often. It's just mind-blowing. I get why David Lynch would want to get her like a showcase performance.
Yeah, right.
But I still have that hesitation of I don't necessarily need to see how it happened. I'd rather hear about it through other people.
Well, and because she's in Wild at Heart, right? The Good Witch.
Yes, I think you're right.
So he must.
Oh, he's like obsessed with her, and I think Twin Peaks: The Return, like bringing her back for that, was a big.
Well, and you know,
a big reason.
So I think at least from what I understand, it was sort of the same with Naomi Watts. Like their relationship was just incredible.
It was inspired
on Mulholland Drive, which is why she
all his blondes. I mean, you know, talk about Hitchcock's blondes, but Lynch has got Laura Dern and Cheryl Lee and Naomi Watts.
I don't remember like Cheryl Lee and a bunch of other stuff though. Like I only remember her from this.
I don't know if I'm into this spoken word.
Not anymore.
It feels like early 90s. I like my Twin Peaks to feel timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like somewhere between 1955 and 1995. Yeah. That's where I want it to sit. This feels like you've gone to like a poetry reading in 91, you know? You remember Harold, the shut-in?
Mm-hmm.
This is how he ends up with her diary. That's literally it. It's so funny. Wow. It's like, you know, it's real basic prequel storytelling. That's the origin of that one.
Wow.
And we know this already. Like, we know how he got it.
Yeah, right.
I think it's just like, here's the visceral side of what we know. He's the sound guy.
Right.
You know that story, right? That he's the
No.
Oh, Bob is he was the sound guy because Bob wasn't in the original Twin Peaks pitch.
Yeah.
And David Lynch, someone said he saw him like setting up a microphone behind the dresser. And so David Lynch made him, well, he created Bob in that moment. He said,
I do remember hearing that at some point.
He said that, you know, it's a ghost serial killer. Like this is like all the dream sequence stuff. That was never part of the original idea. That was all to fill a hole in the middle of the episode 3 because they were short, like 10 minutes.
David Lynch gets good work from his actors.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, he put Cheryl Lee through the ringer in this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone is like reacting at the fullest level of their emotions throughout this movie. And I think that, you know, that often sets him apart from other art cinema directors is like there's always an authenticity behind an emotional authenticity behind his characters, even if they're doing really strange
ridiculous strange things. You
know, in the best of his films, that's what makes them so
great.
like Mulholland Drive is another one, I think.
Yeah.
I do find the supernatural rape scenes in this movie uncomfortably erotic. I never thought, I didn't want to deal with the idea that Laura might have had some complicity in what happened to her.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what Lynch has faced me with.
Pages of her diary were torn out.
It's really interesting. Like, you get you get moments in this film where it's just like fan favorite characters getting a moment to shine.
Yeah.
And the whole movie was supposed to be this, like the 3-4 hour cut that they were working on. That was literally everyone in the cast would have had a moment like Albert just had there.
Yeah.
I also think it's a little bit of a retcon that Dale dreamt about Laura Palmer's death prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he only starts dreaming about it after
he arrives.
He gets there, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it all fits within the dream detection kind of vibe of the series, but
man, does any of this feel like road testing for Mulholland Drive?
Yes, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Also, that lady just had her marble rye stolen. Give it here, you old bag! Do you think David Lynch sort of grabbed that mask from whoever was making it halfway through and was just like, perfect! He's like, I haven't put anything on it yet.
Nope, that's it. You're perfect. Done.
Stick it on the kid's face. Shelley Medchanamic.
I was gonna say, what's her name? Shelley? Yeah. Shelley Johnson.
Medchanamic, yeah. As far as I can tell, this series actually filled in the gaps of what the boy magician and the grandmother were. I don't think it's ever explained in the series what their role in all this is. I think it's this movie that makes it reveal that they're from the lodge. So maybe not the question you wanted to have answered, but the movie is answering some questions.
They are answering something.
I really don't think it's really, I remember whenever Kyle MacLachlan's asked about Twin Peaks and, how do you follow it? He said, just, like pay close attention and you can follow it. It's a real story. You can follow it from A to Z. But I do think the boy magician and the grandmother was like one of the few kind of loose ends, but this movie ties it up. As much as it ever does.
As much as possible with David Lynch.
But I don't think from the series that they're like from the lodge. That's what the inside of Bob's mouth looks like.
Yeah.
I love this camera movement here.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of that was actually still, it's not a jump scare exactly, but it gives you that feeling. And it's truly terrifying just through the use of choice of camera shot, what he shows, the music.
I just love the way he like decides to you do it like her running from the house as a single take with the panning and the zooming. Also works really well in pan and scan, which is great because I had a video copy of this that was pan and scan. It was actually working within the medium very well. Also, I don't think there were any subtitles on my video copy. This movie's full of fucking subtitles. I think when it works best, seeing what happened to Laura is like it hits you on an emotional level that you didn't really get from the series. Like you knew all this information, you knew it all happened, but you were never really confronted with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find that really powerful, and then other times I just find it kind of gratuitous. It's like a really fine line. Like I get a real sense of what it must have been like to live in the house with the guy who was about to kill you.
Yeah, right.
Like you completely feel it.
Yeah.
Just from the kind of acting, directing choices, the camera work, all of it. This is like a dystopian Norman Rockwell painting.
Does that mean you're gonna kill me?
Pretty much. Anyone who's obsessed with cleaning in Twin Peaks is bad news.
Yeah, right.
And George Costanza's coming over for dinner. It's another Seinfeld cast member, Mrs. Ross.
Yeah.
Grace Zabrowski. And she's also in Wild at Heart. It also slightly rewrites the history, the idea that Sarah Palmer didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because she clearly does in this.
She's like
she's playing it as if she knows
quite
exactly
terrified in this scene. Yeah.
And
like
of course,
she knows who he is.
He drugs her, and she's drinking and all. Isn't she's? I think she drink in this and in Seinfeld as well.
Oh yeah, she's got some great drinking in Seinfeld.
Yeah. Have some more wine.
And a great laugh too.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what she says to her husband, but
they're talking about the cabin, and she says, "I'll take a hotel any day." Oh, the cabin. But
you know, it's funny when you watch this scene too, though, is it feels like, you know, you shouldn't need profilers from the FBI to figure out what's going on in this fucking town. Once you see this scene,
right. It's really clever how they do it in the series. Like you think it's all just kind of the madness of grief.
Yeah.
And then it's revealed it's just madness.
Yeah.
It's the madness of being possessed by a serial killing ghost.
Serial murderer. Yeah.
I mean, you know, this you see more of Leland in the series, but I think he's also magnificent in this movie. Like the way you see Bob and Leland like at the same time. You see one coming out of the other. It's not easy stuff he's making everyone do. Such a great actor as well.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Oh, I really got to think on that. Damn it.
How is he not in the... Oh, Ray Wise. Of course, Ray Wise.
No, yeah. Is Everett in this?
No.
Yeah.
Also, I think the biggest, the kind of biggest absences, Everett, Jack Nance, Audrey, Cheryl Fenn. Oh, of course, Richard Baymer is not in it either. There's Ben Horn. Here we go, is the Angels. We get a lot of angels in this movie. It's a decidedly more Catholic movie than Twin Peaks the series
the show ever was. Yeah,
I always felt like the afterlife in Twin Peaks the series was very secular.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
This feels more,
yeah,
it's like a kind of general spirit world, not aligned with any religion. But as you'll see as this movie goes on, it gets very kind of
non-secular,
very Catholic very quickly, like Poltergeist to the Other Side style.
Which we know well.
Which we do. This is something.
This kind of stuff. This is like
magnificent. I was just gonna say, like, I would show this in like not that I have, but I would show this in a film class. It's like we go inside the painting and then we show what can't be seen in a painting, like the depth of the image, the camera movement. The Marble Rye Lady.
But it's, when everything's working together, the music.
Yeah.
Again, how he moves the camera. The establishing he does to show us that we're inside the painting. It's all.
It's all first. Cool. It's all first rate. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Don't ask me where this scene has taken place.
Right, or when.
My guess is that it's after.
Well, is this the end of the series? Is this?
Yeah, I think this is after the end of the series.
Okay.
The end of the first series. I think it's when
Mr. Burns.
That's a deep cut. That's Ben Horn's son, right? That Laura cares for. Who's dressed as a Native American the entire time.
Like, I'm having a hard time remembering how much is Teresa mentioned in the original series.
Uh, a little bit at the
Okay.
beginning. Oh, this is what makes me think that that is taking place after the series is done. What happens now?
Hmm. I can't. Is that
Where is
Teresa?
that? No, that's Heather
that?
Graham as Annie.
Oh.
There you go. The good Dale is in the lodge.
Yeah.
Where's Annie? Where's Annie? What a great ending.
Oh yeah.
That finale is
So good.
perfect. You ever heard of the sort of Mobius strip theory about David Lynch's movies, that
The what?
in order to kind of follow them narratively, you have to treat them as a Mobius strip, the kind of figure of eight.
Oh yeah.
Because it seems like that, because we're moving like around time like a circuit, because that's like past the end of Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
going back to before Twin Peaks.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It is stuff like this happens all the time. It's a very Lynchian thing.
No, this is going to cause problems. I'm going to end up watching the original series.
And then at the end go, nope, didn't help. Did not help. Not a warm bit.
Right.
The end of this movie has a fantastic non sequitur that I feel is just like almost like David Lynch trolling the audience.
Sorry, couldn't see. Is that mom or herself?
That's Laura.
Okay. Was that her looking at herself?
She's been getting out of bed conservatively for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And never quite getting out.
And yet still compelling.
Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce David Lynch.
I love that scene where
great.
I love that scene where you nearly got out of bed.
Yeah.
So good. See, again, cleaning. Yeah. Bad Leo. We know Leo is bad news.
Reminds me of a restaurant manager or two I know.
Leo, such a good character. New shoes. New shoes. No police officer be able to crack that code.
Yeah, right. Because Shelley just did.
Yeah. Here he is. One of 3 Renault brothers. Also the cable guy from Seinfeld. How many Seinfeld cast members are in this movie?
Maybe, Bobby, maybe.
I mean, why can't we make appointments? Doctors do it. This is another character that goes through an interesting... we see like 3 Renault brothers in the series. He dies, and then in the return,
don't he and Norm have a big fight in the bar and Cheers?
Oh, that sounds right. In The Return, that actor comes back playing a different Renault brother who also owns
I don't
that
remember
bar.
that. Wow. Why does it have to be a brother?
That explains why
David
they look
Lynch?
explains why they look so similar, even though his other two brothers didn't look anything like him. One of them was Michael Parks.
That's great.
This is Nightlife Laura if you're keeping tab of the Barbie looks. Nightlife Laura. It's like Double Life doesn't cover it. She's got like a quadruple life.
Yeah.
I also don't remember Donna in the series ever talking about going out hooking with Laura. I think that would have come up at some point in the investigation.
Sometime.
It's almost like, the recasting gives them the opportunity to just totally retcon Donna as a character.
Right.
Like completely reinvent her from scratch. You're right, there's not a ton of camera movement in David Lynch's films.
Yeah.
That is admirable. They were just talking about that on Star Wars.
It's just such a contrast from what we get from everything else.
Well, that was it. They were just talking about that on Star Wars Minute with regard to Solo. It's like that, if you're an old-fashioned movie viewer, not moving the camera is preferable to moving the camera. And it might mean you're an old person. Films seem better when the camera's not moving. Oh, the log lady.
Yeah.
See, it already seems extraneous that she's just bumping into every character from the show. But the full cut of the movie, it would have had a scene like this every 2 minutes, basically. I have some.
So is this movie essentially like Bart and Milhouse, what they do for the day before the murder? Remember that episode?
Bart Milhouse.
Yeah, I think there's more to it, but it was like
Julie
when they get
Cruz, R.I.P.
Yeah.
He just died.
Yeah. When they get the squishy and kind of go about town.
Who do they murder?
Well, they don't murder anyone.
Okay, well, that was the part that you're talking about the Ernest Borgnine episode, Boys in the Hood, right?
Is that it?
Where they end up trapped on where the scouts, where they're Boy Scouts. Ned Flanders,
that's a different one, I think.
Okay. Oh, I don't know that episode, I don't think.
Now, so I'm having a hard time remembering, like with Laura Palmer.
Yes.
Sexy vixen prostitute Laura Palmer. Like, do we
Nightlife
have a split?
Laura, yeah.
Yeah, do we have a split personality thing going on? Because high school Laura seems to be back again.
Yeah, well, this is the thing.
Was there anything to that, or?
Well, because in the TV series, you could never imagine it. The contradictions of a character as described by other people,
yeah,
were always irreconcilable.
Right.
And so Cheryl Lee's being asked to play all of that, and she's doing a great job.
She is,
but
yeah.
They push her even further than they're pushing her now. But that is one of the ultimately unsatisfying things. Is it's like, I wanted that to sort of. I like the ambiguity of not knowing whether that was the way people were talking about her or whether she really was that.
Yeah.
Because the movie sort of says, well, she was doing everything everyone.
And I'm starting to like, get a little mad at the thought of this movie getting panned at the time.
Right.
Just because it didn't fit
the
expectations of what people wanted.
Everyone fell in love with an idea of Twin Peaks that Lynch was only a small part of, it was also Mark Frost. It was also all the other directors of different episodes. A whole season 2 that was an extrapolation of what the show had started with.
Yeah.
That's what people were expecting. And this is like hardcore, uncut David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
The scene that's coming up, but
I'm also starting to,
holy moly, the scene that's coming up is like as uncut David Lynch as you'll ever see.
Because we're talking about her performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little maddening to think that her performance goes unnoticed.
Yeah,
because people weren't sure what to do with the movie.
I think more than unnoticed. I think it was a little bit. I think people wanted, because again, she wasn't really in the series. She played Maddie, the cousin, and she was a corpse, and in a few dream sequences. So people wanted more Cheryl Fenn, more of Lara Flynn Boyle, more of Madge Amick, and
Cheryl Fenn. Like, I take it we're not going to see her.
No. So but if you actually just look at what she's doing as a performance,
mm-hmm.
it's a real showcase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. People just were looking for something different. Yeah, Donna joining in with this, a scene that was never described before.
Yeah,
and one that's really hard to imagine happening.
I'll do it for friendship.
Now I'm Moira Kelly. I'm a big slut. And that's basically what the movie's saying.
Yeah. Well, now we got some kind of, I dare you.
Literally tongue tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Never knew what that meant until now. I can do
anything better than you.
Interesting, Tarantino didn't like this movie, but stole the name Buck for Bill. I hate it so much, I'm going to steal from it. Yeah, this is the problem with prequels, isn't it? You sort of reinvent the characters retrospectively. And this is the scene in the movie everyone talks about, the pink room scene. It's pretty incredible, actually.
Well, for starters, it looks pretty red to me.
So really, it's like, there's many things about this scene that are interesting.
Well, even just that.
Yeah. But the thing that
I've never seen anybody find a way to show in a more interesting way what it's like to talk in a loud club.
I was just going to say the same thing. Like, have you ever, like, whenever you're in a club in a movie, you can hear everyone and it feels wrong. And this is the first one that feels right.
Yeah.
The other interesting fact is I don't remember ever having subtitles for this scene.
Oh, yeah.
So I had no idea what they were saying. However, now that I can read the subtitles, it doesn't really clear up anything. It's the same things like, I am the muffin, I am the great went. It's just, Again, it's like almost like a kind of perversion of subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not getting any information. It's like ambient filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's just incredible. This is where I really feel like cinematic Lynch is breaking free from the material.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine a scene like this in Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's there's Donna getting roofied. So they're kind of like they're kind of making like a date rape analogy, that why she doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah.
But she remembers it up to this point, and she never says, "Hey, remember when?" Although I guess I don't know. I guess people in that condition might affect their memory before.
You might lose more than yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. I can't floor David Lynch's logic. I think this was like where I got to when I first saw this movie. I watched it late night on TV, and at this point, I was like, I gotta go to bed. I already know how it's gonna end.
Right. At least, yeah.
Actually, I didn't. I know how the story is gonna end.
Right.
Also, the other thing about David Lynch,
oh, what a cool shot.
He has like no when he does nudity and sex, there's no pretensions of art there. He's straight up porn.
Yeah.
So much so that did you know that the lesbian sex scene in Mulholland Drive was based on a porn parody of Twin Peaks? Like he tried to recreate it shot for shot from a Twin Peaks porn parody.
I can't believe I never heard that.
Ronette Pulaski, pretty important character to just throw in. You remember her?
No, actually.
She's the other one. The other girl who was there, who survived and was found wandering at the train tracks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they're about. It's impossible not to feel dirty watching this scene.
No, yeah. I was just going to say.
It's like, you feel like, I'm in the wrong place. Something's gone wrong that I've ended up here. So they knew Teresa. I don't know if we know that yet. I think so. I think. Wrong person to be dropping this information to.
Yeah, right.
Bring your Cuban cigars.
Mm-hmm.
One-Eyed Jacks.
One-Eyed Jacks.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I do remember being in a film studies class with like where our seminar tutor was this ultra feminist, and we were doing, I think, Lost Highway.
Yeah.
And she said, like anticipating that she'd get some pushback, sort of said, like, do any of you think that the sex scene in this movie isn't like pure porn? And everyone went, oh yeah, it's porn. Yeah, like everyone like went around the room, was like, oh no, yeah, total porn. Yeah. She was like, oh, okay, let's move on then. Like no one was like, we can't artistically justify any of this.
Right.
Can you can't see Laura Flynn Boyle doing this scene, can you? You know what I mean? Like it's
well, and not like how we knew her from the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that shot of the cigarettes on the floor and the beer.
That was amazing.
It's like a decidedly less wholesome view of Americana.
Mm-hmm. But talk about film school. Like, let's take a look. Because that whole scene is just even with the overt porn, but like
yeah, I think that's just an observation. It is stunning piece of filmmaking. Let me guess, Donna doesn't remember. Oh, I don't remember enough to describe this to anyone over the next 30 days.
At the end there too, Laura made it seem like, because like maybe the thing she was wearing made her do it or something. What was going on there? Did she imbue her with her own Laura powers?
Well, I mean, there's an uncomfortable sense of her, like wanting as much as wanting, like, over 50% of what's happening to her, which I don't really know what to do with. I guess it was always there in the series, but that thing I can't remember. Why do you do it? Speaking of which.
No.
Oh, now I remember. I'm a serial killer. That should be a meme. When you remember you're a serial killer. Oh, this is another. I forget that these scenes are all so close together. This is the other big highlight of the movie for me. This scene. It's like something out of. It's like the absurdism of Lynch meets like a horror suspense road movie from the 70s and like action TV of like yesteryear, all in one scene. It's a little bit
of Duel.
Oh, it's fucking crazy, this scene.
Oh, fuck.
Remember the one-arm man?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was trying to place him.
Mike, his former killing partner. Ugh, would be a Rottweiler, wouldn't it?
Oh man. That'll stick with you for a while.
It's as close to like a nightmare as I've ever seen on film. It's like I have nightmares like this, where people like just shouting in my face, and I can't hear them. Yeah, as if time isn't complicated enough in this movie, we're going to flash back to before the movie began. Prequel to a prequel to a prequel.
Wow. Man.
It's so interesting that like Twin Peaks is sort of remembered as like a fun show, and then people sort of say, yeah, but this, you know, the Fire Walk with Me was just too dark. I'm like, yeah, but in terms of content, all this stuff still happens in Twin Peaks,
right?
Like, what's the story of Twin Peaks? It's about a dad who kills his daughter.
Yeah.
And occasionally, you know, we talk about how great the coffee is and how you like your bacon and how good the cherry pie is. Yeah, I know. It's like I don't think we know any of this. There you go. Chicken. There's another chicken reference. And this reminds me of when Ben Horne nearly sleeps with his own daughter.
And
there's a boy pretending to be a chicken, in case you missed the chicken line.
I guess you missed the reference.
Are you sure that mask is ready? Yep, stick it on the kid.
You don't want anything? You don't want me to color it? Nope.
No eyes or anything?
The murder juice is flowing.
Like, you know, when the Laura Palmer story is told in Twin Peaks, I never got the sense that, you know, she was basically being held hostage in her home for the last few. Like, I never got that sense. It's all this movie that makes me think that.
Yeah.
And it's one of them. It makes it feel like it's worthwhile telling that story because it does change your perception of it.
Yeah.
That she's basically living with an abuser.
But again, this is like a public moment.
Yes.
Where
You think
cops, the
at some point
FBI
Dale would have interviewed those three
people.
guys at the. Well, yeah, she was here about a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm. Boy, her father was acting really weird.
Oh yeah, that was about the time that old man nearly died on the crosswalk, and
I mean, that intersection really went apeshit in this sleepy little town.
if it had been like a Law and Order episode, that would have been cleared up in about a minute.
Yeah,
because they would have just given that information in like the first scene after the first commercial break.
Now, you said you didn't see anything. Oh, come to think of it.
Yeah. Come to think of it, the murderer is Steve. It's really funny as well, like, how much style can change content. Like, if you take away if you take away like what Lynch is doing as a filmmaker, this is like Casper or Scooby-Doo. Like when she asks, who are you really?
Yeah,
like, it was the fairground owner, Mr. Peterson. It's sort of like a ghost. So that's the like, that was a flashback to the first shot of the movie, right, with the exploding television.
Yeah.
So we're kind of
starting to, the snake is eating its tail.
The snake is eating, quite literally, the snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Or the tail eating the snake. Or the snake eating the snake. Stop being such an overt drug dealer. You're one of the worst drug dealers I've ever seen. And then this is a scene I remember being described in Twin Peaks.
Oh, really?
Well, they say when Bobby, like, the rumor goes around school that Bobby's killed a man. This is what they're referring to.
Okay.
Did he just sneeze up a bunch of coke?
I was gonna say
Annie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people randomly breaking out into laughter.
Yeah.
If again, Fellini's Satyricon, that's the only other movie where people start laughing at things, and you not only do you not only do you don't think it's funny, there's nothing to laugh at. They just break it out into laughter. Pine cones. Douglas fir trees, as we find out. Oh, look who it is. It's the deputy from Deer Meadow.
There you go.
So it all connects, you see?
It all comes together.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are no loose ends. That's what you do when you see a big bag of Coke. You go, wow.
For a cop, he doesn't really know how to draw. Ooh, shit.
Yeah. That's where doing this as a movie is different. You can see someone's head explode.
Yeah.
Without network sensors getting on your back.
Yeah, that ought to do it.
That's hilarious. They just throw some dirt over his back. Ooh. That's a lot of brain.
Mm-hmm.
Where brain shouldn't be. I never really understood that, except that he looks a little bit like Mike, maybe. I was trying to think if that was like a premonition, but Mike doesn't die. He ends up with Ed's wife. What's her name? Nadine.
Oh.
With the noiseless blinds.
Yeah, I can't.
And she thinks she's a teenager again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could have cut this whole thing. I think you could cut the scene. That was being ruthless, I'd say. Never needed to see this. Do you remember though? Do you remember those episodes of? I think it was the second season, late in the second season of Twin Peaks, where James goes off by himself to another town and ends up in.
I do remember that.
Like a kind of double indemnity style storyline.
Right.
It's like you really felt they were playing for time at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, everything after Laura, after the mystery is solved, is questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Until Lynch comes back and makes it all work in the finale.
Right.
So cool how the camera's sort of rocking in like seasickness fashion. It's true, like his camera, like the frame is so still so often that when you do get camera movement, it stands out so much. Like just that like gentle rocking on its axis.
Yeah.
It's like it makes it, makes you feel sick. Do the Palmers not wonder why all the surfaces in their home are covered in like a white powdered residue.
Yeah.
I guess not, because he's
Why does
drugging
she have
her.
this tiny mirrored?
I guess not, because Leland is drugging his wife every night.
Yeah.
Like she's Ingrid Bergman in Notorious.
Drink it all. I have things to do tonight.
I didn't mix it very well. All the drugs are at the bottom. I remember this shot from the pilot.
Mm.
In the bottom of the stairs. And the fan. I remember that very clearly. It's the kind of movie that makes you scared of the fan in your own home.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what Lynch can do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like literally, it's like the uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
The essence of horror. We got a whole barnyard here. We got chickens, turkeys. Well, actually, a zoo if you count that monkey we saw earlier.
And boy monkey.
Boy monkey.
Oh no, he was doing chicken.
He was doing a chicken. But there was a monkey behind his little mask at one point.
All right. It's a fucking weird
Obviously.
movie. Obviously. Is this it? We've got a half hour to go.
No. This is just him raping her.
Oh God.
I know. It's like part of me wants this rape scene to be less romantic and sexy looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of me doesn't want it to be like that because I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
So I think, again, this might be a scene.
Could go.
I can do the mental work myself. But, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say.
Right. Yes.
You're going to see the last 7 days of Laura Palmer. Stuff like this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine just turning up as the sound guy on a project and you end up being one of the
an
most
iconic,
feared,
frightening,
villains and monsters
villain.
in television and then cinema. Just because you were fixing a mic behind a dresser.
Like, that's terrible, but I kind of wish that screaming was happening right from the beginning, because
yes, exactly.
Up until then, it was really hard to.
Yeah. And the sense that she's participating in it perhaps a little more than you would hope she would.
Yeah. No, let me.
This is a job for me, the man who will kill her in 24 hours. Less than that now. This is the last day, I think. Does this have something to do with when I came to your room last night and raped you?
You're not mad about that, are you? Oh, now you said the wrong words. Now I have to kill you.
It must be this. I can imagine this movie being pretty triggering for people who've like,
oh God,
lived with abusers.
Yeah.
Like, particularly, I think it's that moment of fake concern when he goes in the room, like, Laura, honey. I feel like that must be that must trigger PTSD in so many people watching this movie.
Yeah.
It's difficult to tell, like, in the overall Twin Peaks canon, like how culpable Leland is and how much he's a victim, as much a victim himself. They never really.
Well, because for
that.
a moment there, I was going to ask, you know, because he's Bob,
right?
Does he not remember? Like when
he's been Bob. He's been Bob since he was a boy, I think it turns out.
But then, of course, when he gave the Bob look there, I'm like, well. But those shots, even right there, those are very effective, and the sky shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is and the empty school desk, which is where Twin Peaks begins.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of Rogue One quality about this. It's like running with the Death Star plans.
Sure.
Kind of moment. Also makes me wonder when, like, at what point, how he ever had time to get together with Shelley, because he's already like having an affair with Shelley when the series starts. I think.
Yeah. I think so.
I don't think it like I don't think it's possible to do what happens in this amount of time in real life. I actually think it's physically impossible. Like, you couldn't 24 this show. You couldn't be like,
right.
map out how this all happens in a matter of days. That's actually the same format as the TV show, though, isn't it? With the like each episode is a day, more or less.
Is it on the original show?
In the original show, up until they have like a time lapse about 2/3 of the way through. But up until that point, everything is happening in real, like, chronologically, like a day at a time. This is your brain on coke. Can't hold a phone and do your stockings at the same time. I would say that the amount of, like, the cigarette to coffee ratio has really changed in this in this movie.
Right,
like, the amount of coffee and outgunned cigarettes in Twin Peaks by some margin. Here it's gone in the other direction. When an angel disappears from your religious painting, it cannot be a good thing.
It's not a good sign.
You want more angels, if anything.
Oh no, the angels are disappearing.
You don't think that's a bad omen, do you?
Just that.
It's just like in tarot cards. Death doesn't literally mean death.
I'm sure I'll be fine.
Oh, no, this shot.
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Fuck.
Imagine filming that.
Wow.
It's one of those ones where, like, if you were the assistant director, I'd be like, look, I know we got to get this shot right, but I cannot just look at it as it's happening. Okay. I'm going to be waiting for the moment that his face comes into frame, and it's going to scare me every time.
I want to get it. I want to get the shot, but I don't want to see the shot.
Like, I feel the same about whoever Chris Nolan assigned to film that camcorder footage of the Joker.
Exactly.
Of Heath Ledger as the Joker smashing his head into the frame. I was like, that can't have been a fun day.
I want to say that maybe Ledger did that himself.
Seems like it.
Don't I remember reading something that Nolan gave him that assignment, that leeway or something?
I think, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't want to pry too much into your personal life, but have you had a lot of experiences of dealing with people who are manic depressive?
I'm not sure I'd say a lot. You?
Yes. And it's just like this.
Yeah.
This fucking scene is 101 dealing with a manic depressive. And I only clocked that for like this time, this time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if anyone wanted to know what the experience is like, it's exactly like dealing with how Laura is in the scene. Like, exactly. And
but what that says to me is, again, some awfully good acting going on.
Oh, great. Yeah. It's like whether she's been directed this way, the effect is like, it's like being with a bipolar person.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Oops.
Because he reports this back, doesn't he? Like, he says to Donna.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, he does. He says, she said Bobby killed a guy. And that's why they're all afraid of him. But I guess we're supposed to think that, oh, I guess he does put the coke in his gas tank.
Mm.
How did Bobby end up as a police officer? I question the hiring policy.
Certainly the vetting process.
Yeah. And it's not like there's no one who was there for the Laura Palmer investigation. It's like, it's still Hawk, still Andy, Harry's brother, Max Cherry.
Max Cherry.
It is, isn't it? It's Robert Forster, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he was too sick, right, to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, either that's either the in-world explanation or the off-screen explanation, or both. Okay. I can't remember. Again, like Lynch and recasting.
Yeah.
What about Robert Forster? Yes. That's exactly who we need to get. The best possible person who could play that part.
I was going to say.
I'm thinking Marlon Brando. Although we have Michael Cera as
Oh, there's a
Depending...
stop in the stop sign or stoplight.
That's in the series too. In the pilot, they talk about that.
Oh, Jesus.
The inverted traffic lights, I think, is from the pilot. Because Dale talks about it. Says, you know, you're in a small town when it... And green means slow down. Is this where she gets switched? I'm trying to remember.
What?
In the return, at some point before she dies, she goes into the afterlife before she comes back out again.
Oh yeah.
Is it? I think it's this point.
Huh.
Oh, I don't know. Like between her leaving at the side of the road and before her getting there.
Road, yeah.
She's like a different person now who didn't die. I don't know. Makes me wonder how one would write David Lynch fan fiction. You know, it's already its own fan fiction. Waldo! There's another legacy character, Waldo the bird, who witnesses this all. Makes me think of that scene in the vet's office, in the vet's waiting room, where the llama eyeballs Dale.
Yeah, right.
Which he did just without being trained or asked to do it. He just looked, as they were passing, he just looked Carl McLachlan right in the eyes and grunted, and they caught it on camera. You know you're in a bad way where the guy saving you from this is the guy who's going to kill you. Leland ended up killing him, I think, as well, doesn't he?
Right here?
No, in the series.
In the series?
He strangles Jacques, and everyone thinks he did it out of grief, but then because it turns out he did it to shut him up. Fucking Leo. A piece of shit.
Fucking ass.
Just went back in to get my clothes and my bag.
And to yell shut up one more time.
Again, I just think of him with that tarantula climbing up his face. Makes me happy. It's so well done in the finale as well. Like, I can't remember who it is. It's Shelley saying like, "Oh, Leo must be having a great time," and it cuts to him with like a tarantula crawling. Da, 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 da. Oh,
fuck!
This shot always creeped me out. It's so simple.
Yeah,
just the three faces and the torch swinging around. Like, it's like you could do that on any budget, and it looks terrifying. It's real Blair Witch stuff.
Yeah. So I forget, does the other girl at the start of the series, does she have amnesia or?
Yeah, well, she's kind of, she's like traumatized and mute. But she's eventually rehabilitated, I think. It's like an evil recruitment officer.
Yeah, right.
He also does, Lynch also does the sound design for his movies, which I think is so important.
Well, it's funny because I was going to mention it earlier that like Foley work and that, like, I'm noticing a lot of things in this movie. Footsteps.
Yeah.
Paper money.
There's a kind of ambient underscore.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're watching the movie with tinnitus or something.
Mm-hmm. It's funny.
Again,
it's so
like
interesting though, because
Uncle
this
Leo.
movie only works if you've seen the series first. Like you said, if you were to watch this before the series.
Yeah. But if you have seen it, there's no new information for you.
Right.
You just have to sort of like respond to it on a purely emotional level.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, but I mean, Lynch is going to help you do that anyway.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, you could follow Twin Peaks as a storyline. There was a procedural element to it that kind of like carried through, and I guess was perhaps more Mark Frost than David Lynch, but he of Hill Street Blues fame.
Yeah.
But storytelling is not linear in this at all, and it more or less is in the Twin Peaks proper. With a few dream sequence digressions, it's telling a chronological story.
But this isn't so jumpy around that you feel lost.
No, it isn't actually. And it is the last 7 days of Laura Palmer, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Although I have to question, why would this killer let the friend go? You don't know what she's going to not remember. So that feels like a bit of a retcon.
Yeah. That's the entrance to the Black Lodge, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So again, that's an image from the end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. Who's that guy?
That crazy man?
There's an evil Dale in, like, an evil FBI agent, Wyndham Earl. Is that his name? The guy who he's Dale's old partner who's gone crazy and he's trying to find the Black Lodge.
Wow.
This is like a dream summary of the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Tagarmon means pain and sorrow, and it's also a kind of a bean stew. Again, that's just an observation, and there's no no conclusion there. This is like a kabuki play or something, where like they act out the end of the play before they've got there to tell you what's going to happen. That he'll eventually.
He's an awfully compelling actor for a non-actor.
Really? Oh, I think that's Garmon Bozia. I thought it was cream corn. Or is it Garmon Bozia?
That looked like corn to me.
It does like cream corn. Cream corn and a monkey close up. You can always count on David.
On that monkey.
You can always count on David Lynch to answer a question with a non sequitur.
Yeah.
How do you think we should show that Laura Palmer died? Cream corn and a close up of a monkey.
All right, David.
Can we at least have a shot from Twin, like the first shot
from
of
the
Twin
first
Peaks?
shot? Yeah, right.
Which I assume that's what it is. I'm sure they didn't restage
what it looks like. Yeah.
So there you go. There's probably the first impasse of the movie in the final minute.
I mean, if anything, David Lynch isn't going to give you, a lot of impasses.
Well, definitely a lot of prequel problems in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that counts as an impasse. This is another moment where I sort of think, like, if you undress what we're doing cinematically, it would just look fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
This fucking angel on a wire. But that's the genius of Lynch, I think. It's like, he takes things that practically look kind of hokey and turns them into something really compelling.
I mean, we're near the end here, so I mean, the first thing I'm wondering out loud is what's Quentin Tarantino's problem?
Oh, good. Yeah, I think it's one of those movies it took people a while to appreciate.
But I don't watch it and my first thought is, oh, his career is over.
Right.
That seems like a ridiculous notion, considering the kind of film, like, regardless of how you feel about the narrative that you watched, you can't say this isn't compelling filmmaking.
Right. I wonder what direction David Lynch gave Cheryl Lee in that moment. It's like, could you kind of play all the emotions
that ever existed?
Because that's what, I mean, I don't know if that's what he asked her to do, but that's what she's doing. It's like she's like rolling through every single human emotion on a loop. It's incredible. Was it just like David Lynch saying, just keep emoting? Which ones? All of them. Any of them.
That's it. Keep going. Go on. Now smile and start laughing.
There's the completion of Kyle MacLachlan's day on set.
Yeah. Right.
But this is what I mean.
I'd like to see video of him reading the script for the first time.
Oh, I know. I think they wanted him to be in it more, but he didn't.
Oh,
I believe
really?
His role was cut down from what they originally wanted. Yeah, I think I think he had the opposite reaction to David Lynch. He wanted to get away from Dale Cooper. It's so funny, like, and I feel that it's the same with and I believe, when he played Dale Cooper again, it was Kyle MacLachlan wanting it to be completely different. I think that's the origin of Dougie. That he would basically play a different character.
Yeah.
For most of the series. I think that's where it came from. He didn't want to play Dale again. So David Lynch said, "You want to play this kind of this sort of guy without a brain who looks like Dale?"
That I'll do.
There we go.
Well,
some of these character descriptions seem to be taken from David Lynch's dictations. Fat trout neighbor.
Yeah.
Jumping man. And that's a kind of homage to the credit sequence, right? Which was always like that framed photo of Laura. Oh, such a good show.
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
thing. Like, if you look at it all, it's hard to do. But if you look at the whole thing holistically, and don't stress over which part of it is best, you can watch the whole thing thinking of all the other pieces. It's such a rich.
You can have there's a lot to.
Yeah. Because there's that great moment earlier on where Dale is investigating Agent Desmond's disappearance, and you know, if you've seen the series, you know that's what happens to him. He ends up disappearing. So he's basically investigating his own disappearance. I like the name of the animal wranglers, Steve Martin's Working Wildlife. Sounds like the name of a racehorse. American Humane Association.
Who is this Pierre Edelman?
I don't know. Sounds French to me. There you go.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Reactions. It's not often you see an old movie you've never seen before.
Right. Like I said, I mean, the first reaction is what's the matter with you, Tarantino?
Well, he wasn't alone, to be fair.
Yeah. But I find that movie to be deeply satisfying.
Wow, great. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. It's too compelling not to be, and like there are some scenes where I'd love it if it was an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a fine line in David Lynch's movies. Like, you look at Mulholland Drive and you think of the number of scenes that don't need to be in there. But whenever I think of that movie, I think, like, those are the best scenes.
Those are the ones I love. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like a story that goes like a subplot that goes nowhere, but the actual execution of the scene, like, I can't imagine the film without that.
Like, and their audition.
Well, just, the scene where they keep accidentally shooting people, I think is just astonishing work. Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, in terms of ranking, like, where does this stand in the Lynch canon, and also where does it stand in Twin Peaks? Because I think my answer's slightly different in each one.
So are you talking about,
like, as a Lynch movie? I would probably I agree with you. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a very satisfying movie. I would put it on the lower side of David Lynch's filmmaking.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, I probably
not in a derogatory way.
Not in a
he has a number of films that are just flawed or feel a little bit incomplete. And I think this is one of them. The kind of the Dunes of the world.
But I guess the thing that I keep that's
Inland Empire. It's like I can never quite make the leap on, like.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Inland Empire, though. I really do.
Well, and I think what this movie also has, that of course some of like none of his other movies have at all, are you have a whole series to draw on.
Yeah.
While you watch it.
Yeah.
And so
that's true. Yeah, it's a kind of, it's like an intertextual richness that that's
you're not seeing a lot of Dale Cooper, but when you do, maybe it means more for the small parts that he's in it. I mean, we end, with him with his hand on her shoulder.
Yeah.
And so that really informs the series in a way, you know what I mean? Like the idea of her, I guess you call it a last moment, but
well they both, that's it, like he's joining her from the end of the series and she's joining him from the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
So that is a really, I mean, that's where we start Twin Peaks: The Return, basically. It's like they're both in this other place. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm inclined just to say, as you did, that it's like you each piece of the puzzle needs to be seen in the context of the rest of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd probably put it in the middle of the Twin Peaks franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think that it should be maligned.
I think it's,
ridiculous.
It's not as good as the first season of Twin Peaks.
No,
it's better than most of the second season.
On
a par, I think, with Twin Peaks: The Return.
Well, see, now I'd have to. I mean, I really struggled with The Return just because
it's fucking frustrating.
For no other reason, I hadn't seen
narrative
this.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's like you can't approach it as narrative television. It's pure art television. And
yeah, right.
But that runs counter to.
And I guess I don't know what made me think this, because he is David Lynch.
Yeah.
But I guess I thought it's called Return. You know what I mean? So I thought we were going to get a return. I thought we were going to be more.
Well, like we do.
The series.
It just takes most of the series to happen.
Yes. And
we have to go into like we have to see an A-bomb go off.
Yeah.
Before it happens. Yeah, but it's a similar. I think it's a similar situation where, I mean, it is David Lynch and Mark Frost working together creatively again. But Lynch is directing everything, and he feels like, I was going to say linchpin, so I might as well just use that pun.
Go ahead.
But it does, it feels more like his oeuvre than the collaboration that was the original Twin Peaks. And also, being done on Showtime versus being, an ABC primetime show made a huge difference, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you thought it was a good movie.
I do. I absolutely do.
I think it's really good auteur art cinema.
It's for sure that.
And any problems I have with it, again, I can blame the choice of format rather than the director or the content. Like the issues I have with it, the same issues I have with every prequel I see. And all those kind of the limitations of doing feature film spin-offs, going back to a TV series to make a movie afterwards. Like, I could say the same about any of those Rockford Files movies, or you know what I mean? It's or any like literally any sequel. I could apply the same thing to. So I don't think it has anything to do with Lynch or what he's put on screen. I think it's purely about format.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe this is, like how often were filmmakers making prequels at this point? Not many, right? I mean, this is the early 90s.
That's interesting.
I wonder if it was the beginning of a prequel trend, although maybe, I don't know, maybe it delayed this becoming a trend because of how unsuccessful it was. Maybe it would have happened a lot sooner if this had been successful, because by the end of the 90s, everyone's making prequels.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we know the big one.
Yes.
I'm curious.
It did maxi big, you might say. By the within the next 10 years, it'll be just every other franchise movie will be a prequel.
Yeah.
Well, 10, 15 years. And also, you know, the idea, I think it's quite innovative to do like a feature film spin-off at this stage as well for a TV series. Like, that's expected now. You know, like the El Caminos of the world.
I was just going to say, because now, you know,
6 seasons
not
in a
only
movie.
do you have movie stars doing television, and, you know, like that back and forth is certainly more logistically possible for today's stars. You can go back and forth without you know, really a care in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you know, the idea of a television show becoming a movie in 1992, that's different to me. You know, certainly at that time.
I mean, not if you were doing it on TV. Doing it as a TV movie would be expected. But even that, you'd wait you'd wait like 10, 15 years. You wouldn't do it the year after. You wouldn't do it like like while the show is still in production, which again makes me think of, that's what makes me think of like Star Trek Generations, you know, that they made that instead of an 8th season of Next Generation.
Right.
And interestingly, it was kind of a prequel to, it was a prequel and a sequel at the same time, in the way that only Star Trek can be. But so but yeah, and I think, I don't know, maybe it's too generous to say it was ahead of its time, but maybe critics lack the kind of tools to know what to do with it, partly because, you know, it's like, oh well, this is not done, you know, we're not expecting this kind of movie to happen so soon.
I mean, you know, even if you go into it knowing it's going to be a prequel, I guess I could conceive of somebody sort of line in the sand just saying, well, you know, why do I need to see this? I had pieced enough of it together from the end of the series to not need any of this. But
no, I mean, I feel like there's some points in it where I feel exactly like that. But I guess I'm enough
the sheer weight of the movie,
I'm enough of a fan of David Lynch to sort of just get to buy into the visual side of it, the emotional side of it, the oral side of it. Is the soundscape of the movie is outstanding.
Like, I'll carry it with me,
right?
And
you know, as much as I love the movie, you don't get that from as much as I love the movie, you don't get that from Star Trek Generations. That's my line in the sand.
Not so much,
but carry on. Sorry, you were going to say.
I was just going to say, you know, the sheer force of the acting going on in this movie is you know, pretty compelling, and it's across the board. It's not just one actor.
I hadn't really I mean, I've been watching, I think I alluded to it while we were watching it, but you know, I probably, the first time I saw this movie I was like 12 or something. And I've seen it in a theater. I've seen it on TV, streaming, like again and again and again, 5 or 6 times. And I don't know, maybe it's just talking about it for this podcast, but I hadn't clocked like quite what the kind of ringer that David Lynch is putting his actors through emotionally in this movie. I mean, mostly Cheryl Lee, but also a little bit with Ray Wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he's pushing everyone to like there's
a part of me that
melodrama.
There's a part of me that wants Cheryl Lee to have gotten a nomination for this movie.
I don't think it was a very liked performance. I don't have any data on that. But I have it in the back of my mind that I think she was held responsible. Like, people were less
like it was
interested.
her fault.
Not that it was her fault, but you know, like that she was just the woman that was hired to play the corpse, and now there's a whole movie where she is this, you know.
And this isn't what we wanted to see.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but put that aside. Look at what she's actually doing on screen.
Right. I mean, it's incredible.
There's not many actors I can think of, in her demographic who would be capable of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's Lynch pushing her, or he's not a pushy director, so I don't think that's the case. I think he seems to be very generous to his actors, if anything, which makes it even more remarkable that that's not the product of directorial abuse. So that's usually where you get performances like that. But if anything, Cheryl Lee has always said, this is my favorite person to work with, like Laura Dern says, it's my favorite person to work with. It's like having your uncle on set or whatever. He's just such a nice guy. And he's talked in his masterclass about how the idea of like making actors uncomfortable is just alien to him. Like, why would you do that to them?
You want it to be as safe as
like
possible.
I want to go home, where everyone had a nice day.
Yeah.
It's like, but you watch a movie like this and it makes you realize it. It's like, well,
look
you can get
doing that.
Look at what you can get by actually, treating people right.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Billy Friedkin. You don't have to torture a person half to death,
right,
to get a good performance out of them.
That's funny.
But it's interesting.
Well,
I mean, it's like I don't know. But again, I guess I miss a little bit. I said this again and again, but I miss a little bit of the sort of timelessness of Twin Peaks.
I get that.
This feels like an early 90s movie. In a way
it
that
feels
Twin
different,
Peaks,
though. I mean, it
hasn't. I mean, I don't mean it.
I think you're
dated.
right in moments. Yeah.
But I don't think it's dated. I think.
Okay.
I don't think it's dated, but there's something oddly comforting about when you watch Twin Peaks and you feel like it could be it could be post-war America from any period that you're watching. But this feels like.
I mean, it qualifies, like, I guess the last word I'll say on it is that it certainly qualifies for what we do with our watch-alongs. But this is a pretty big welcome treat compared to what we've done in the past. I mean, let's face it, this is no Highlander 2.
I was just going to say, I was
quickening going on.
Tell me you're talking about Kindergarten Cop 2 without telling me you're talking about Kindergarten Cop 2. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I was just thinking about, where we've seen these kind of highs before in our watch along, and I remember we had a similar conversation with Solo. We're like, I think at some point you just went, "This is so much more well made than what we normally look at here."
Right.
And I think in a very different way, in a more sort of, more in art cinema terms.
It's more,
because it's really interesting. It's really interesting to me.
I will, I'm sure, be watching this movie again within a week because I want to watch it without distraction. And
okay, so
that's not pejorative against you.
No.
That's the nature of what we're doing here.
No, but that exactly, and maybe this isn't maybe it's only right for a watch along in the sense of it's a difficult sequel to place,
right?
But in terms of a movie that you would have any problem watching without two idiots prattling along beside it, because you need that for Kindergarten Cop 2,
right?
Or Treasure Buddies.
So this needs that, but like in a different way. Like it needs the hand holding, but certainly not for a Kindergarten Cop 2 reason.
Yeah, it needs the sort of the special episode warning, at the beginning of Different Strokes, right. Where
yes,
one of the actors would be like, "Hi," and they would say now, and they would let you know, and you'd there's going to be some
on a very special episode of Home Improvement,
right? Although I was
followed by the Diet Mug Root Beer Dana Carvey Show.
But like the episode of Different Strokes that deals with child abuse and like child sexual abuse. And I was listening to a conversation about that recently on a podcast, and they were talking about, like, that would always signpost to you that that this was going to be a serious episode. It was going to like deal with some dark issues. And then there was that episode of Little House on the Prairie that was a slasher.
Yeah, like there's like a Leave It to Beaver.
Like a serial
Leave It to Beaver dealing with alcoholism.
Right, but they don't like it's just like a regular episode of Little House on the Prairie, but it becomes a slasher with no warning, and it's like, that's way more disturbing. I mean, right. None of us want to see Dudley in a towel.
Yeah,
but we knew something was gonna be different.
Right. All right.
And of course, that invented the phrase "the Dudley cough."
Oh yeah.
With the live studio audience, when
yeah,
can't laugh but they need to react. But they cough. Dudley in a towel coughing.
Any last words for you?
No, not at all. I think I'm really glad that you responded
really
to it
solid movie
so positively.
Yeah.
And, and he seldom makes films anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There was a kind of false alarm at Cannes this year that he'd secretly made a movie and was going to release it at Cannes, which I think was
nobody knew about it.
Again, as we found, a lot of stories that have to do with the Cannes Film Festival are just false.
Bullshit. Yeah.
So it's good it's good to revisit. And I think I seem to remember a similar discussion about Lost Highway. People are like, "Well, this is not a good movie." And you go, "Watch it. It's great. It's really, really good." Right. And it's the first time he did a certain thing that he'll go on to do again and again. Yeah. Anyway,
No, I'm with you.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I don't think I can promise something of this quality.
We know what we're doing next month.
We know what we're doing next month. I would say we're definitely on a par next month, because we're going to do From Russia with Love,
and it's going to be
yeah. And there's not much.
We're going to do From Russia with Love, and it will be From Russia with Love. So
right.
All right.
There'll be a lot of love from Russia with Love.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll also talk about like how good is good.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's another question that comes up with From Russia with Love.
All right.
And then we'll be back with a watch along. I got some ideas percolating. Again, it all depends on the erratic nature of streaming rights, but it could if it stays what it is now, I think it will be fascinating.
All right. Well,
I cannot promise you this level of quality again.
I understand.
You get it about once a year.
I understand.
That's the best I can do.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the watch along. You watched it with us, I hope. It was Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me. You're going to have to let us know what you think. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Send an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions,
Point
he's
your
right
finger
there.
at me.
Michael Schatz here of the How Dare You Award. Say goodbye, Tom.
That trail is more popular than Uncle's Day at a whorehouse.
You never cease to please me.
By the way, that the opening quotable and the closing quotable, both Harry Dean Stanton, both said in the same stretch of dialogue.
Within
seconds of each other.
Seconds. That's great.
Maximizing screen time.
That's fantastic. All right, everyone. Until next time.